Cool. Welcome to the Anyone Can Farm Experience live chat Thursday night edition. Let's see, what is the date? I'm not kidding. I really don't know. July 20th, 2023. I know the year, but I didn't know the day. Believe it or not, because I work here. So if I don't go someplace and write a check, I can lose track of actually what day it is, especially if it's nothing special. July 20th. Nothing special about July 20th. All right, so we set Thursday night aside for interviews, and we're going to try something really interesting tonight. The other day, would have been like last Thursday. Aaron Esch was over, and as well as Parker Holmes, and we were working on the cabin build. And if you don't know what that's about, it's a pretty big deal, actually. It was a collaboration between three farms: Baker's Green Acres. Let's see, I don't know what Aaron calls his farm, but his business is barngeek.com, and Homestead Provisions, which is Parker Holmes and Lauren, his lovely wife. And Aaron is a barn designer. He designs barns, right? And he's ventured into tiny homes, right? Isn't that a neat thing that they're coming out with lately? Tiny homes. And I've always been a big proponent of that, because how much time do I spend in the house? Not that much. I don't even like to eat in the house. I'm like an animal. I like to eat outside under a tree. But we don't spend much time in our house, more in the winter time. So it's sort of a refuge from the cold every now and then. But the house to us is a place to sleep and a place to be when it's cold. It's not a place where we come when it's hot, because we don't air condition the house. And that's a decision that we made. We're not going to air condition the house. We're supposed to be outside anyway. So anyway, those guys were over. The collaboration was we were going to build a small cabin, 12 by 16, I think is the dimensions. I should know. It's on my property. Baker's Green Acres was providing the place to put it. Makes sense for us to do that because we have a campground, and a small cabin on there would really be the ticket, because people who come from out of town, maybe to speak at an event or show us how to do something or tell us how to do something, they have a place to stay. Or when no one else is using it, if somebody wants to come here and stay for a couple of days, it's a beautiful place. It's already rented out for next year, Tribe Day, I believe. But somebody could chime in here and let me know one way or the other. But we started it during Tribe Day, got kind of rained out, and it was kind of far away. And I think it's my fault. I wish the clerics got it. They got dibs on it for Tribe Day. Wallace Wimmer's with us. Right on, Wallace. So we started building it. I say the royal we. I didn't do anything except maybe haul some blocks over to set it up on. And we haven't really decided, much about it. We've got the trusses up. They call them the bents, actually, in a post and beam. And we've got 3 walls on. We need to put the windows and the doors in and all that stuff. And the roof, we still have to put that on. But there's a lot of options, a lot of directions we can go with this. We could keep it very primitive for a few years, and then we could decide to insulate it and build a stone hearth in it and actually, rent it out in the wintertime. We could. It might make sense because it's right next to 60 acres of some of the best hunting ground in the world. If you like to shoot them big mice that we got, they call white-tailed deer. So who knows? Maybe we will. It'll be like a 2-day package, and you can use our elevated stand to sit in. We'll even give you a gun you can go out and shoot, and you can shoot as many as you want. We got a lot of deer here. They're kind of a pain. We'd like to see more of them get shot. So anyway, last week when Parker and Aaron were out, Aaron and I sat down and we had a conversation at lunch. And I think Jill said, you know what, you should record that and then show that for the interview. So that's what you're going to get tonight. And I haven't listened to the conversation. You know, I have lots of conversations, and it can be a bit dangerous because sometimes I get riled up and I say stuff, maybe. I don't know, but I said it, so I guess I believe it. But you're all going to get to listen to it tonight. Okay, what do we got? We got Dave and Sonia with us. Wallace Wimmer, the Declaric Homestead, Abundant Living Health and Wellness Coach. And let's see, Bob Denob. Bob Denob. Man, I'd love to spend time with you at your place. You're very knowledgeable, farmed most of my life, and always learn from your content. Love it. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, well, the campground is open. It opens the beginning of summer. So, you know, you can go on Hip Camp, Baker's Green Acres, and you can find your way through there. And I think they charge $25 a night to stay there. So I believe the cabin will be more than that. But, you know, when it's done, you're welcome to it. I'm not sure you can come over here because I'm working. But, you know, maybe we could spend a little bit of time together and I could show you around. But anyway, I'm going to turn on this interview. I'm going to turn on this conversation, and I'm going to watch it along with you. I think it's like a half an hour long. And then we can comment on the end of it. So I'm going to be out of the picture for a minute. But when it's over, I will duck back in. So this is neat. I get to get up and get a cup of coffee and all that stuff. So let's see how this works. This is Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres, and I'm joined by Aaron Esch today, aka the Barn Geek. And behind us is a building that Aaron designed, and we started building it on Tribe Day, or they started building it on Tribe Day. It got a little rained out, a little bit, a little slowed down, and we were kind of isolated from the main event too. I think that had something to do with it, but. We got back after it today. Today's Thursday. Tribe Day ended on Sunday, and wanted to get a little bit more done on it. And in a conversation we had this morning, we were talking about alternative building methods. And how it's another one of those things where you can pull away from the machine. So the wood that you're looking at here was all milled by Parker Homes at Homestead Provisions, and it's Aaron's design. So can you expound on the whole notion of pulling away from the machine? Okay, and why rough cut is
superior.
Yeah. Superior.
So that's my whole goal with the Barn Geek kind of mission at this point, is to provide an avenue that circumvents that going to the lumberyard, getting your, doing a stick built frame, doing just the conventional construction, because that tends to make us less secure. So what we saw a couple of years ago, back in 2021 or whatever it was, I think it was 2021, where the lumber prices took right off. Yeah, 2021. And so what happened was that really put a freeze on the construction industry. A lot of guys didn't have work because the lumber was so expensive. No. So this kind of provides a way around that system, where a local sawmill, Sawyer, like Parker, can cut out a timber package for this, We're not reliant on shipping, from Canada or way down south. We're not relying on that system that has so many different steps where if something goes wrong, it interrupts the whole process. If we're going from a local tree, to local sawmill, to a local end user, to a cabin, or a barn, or whatever you want to build, chicken coop, anything, fence for your farm, then you have a more resilient local community. So that's one of the goals of what we're doing here, building these kind of designing and these kind of structures. And another one is that being that we use timber frame construction, it's common to use rough cut material to do a farm structure or a cabin with, and that allows us to submit a set of plans to the building department that says, and building inspectors are more inclined to approve a timber frame that doesn't have stamped lumber that's produced locally and doesn't come from the lumber yard. So it provides us an avenue around that whole system as well. So
what's the difference between rough cut and stamped lumber?
Well, so rough cut would be basically a logger brings the log in from the woods to a sawmill like Parker's, and he'll purchase the logs from a local logger, and he'll just saw it on his sawmill. And a lot of times it's still wet, it's green, but it really doesn't stay wet long. But anyway, it's usually in a full dimension form. So if it's a 2" by 4", it's a 2" by 4" board. So if it's called a 2x4, it's 2 inches by 4 inches. If it's called a 2x6, it's 2 inches by 6 inches.
Yeah.
So but if you go to the lumber yard, you're looking at 1.5 inches by 3.5.
Yeah.
A little bit smaller dimensions.
Kind of a lot smaller.
Yeah.
Why do they still call them 2x4s if?
I'm not 100% sure. I think it had something to do with, surfacing it, and they have some sort of explanation. I never quite could understand how that goes. But the modern sawmills, the band sawmills like Parker's, even though it's rough cut, you can see that the cut is fairly smooth. I mean, it's still got a texture to it, but it really lends a unique character to the structure, being out of that rough cut material. So people seem to like it, and yeah.
What would you say the difference percentage-wise is between lumberyard wood and rough cut?
Percentage of moisture content?
No, price.
Oh, price. Right now it's probably about on a par. Sometimes rough cut is a little bit more. Sometimes it's a little bit less. It depends on what you're getting.
Yeah.
But back 2 years ago, when the prices shot up, you were paying anywhere from, golly, I think the price went up to $2.50, $3 a board foot for lumberyard lumber, and you could still get sawmill lumber for 75, 85 cents to $1 a board foot.
Yeah.
And the price really wasn't affected as that much when you're talking sawmill lumber. So it's really because it's a more resilient system, because it's local.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the whole stamping process, what's that all about? I mean, why would I want to use stamped lumber in lieu of rough cut lumber?
Well, what happened was back about 100 years ago, 150 years ago, the traditional farmer, when they built their barn, they would go out in the back 40, cut down the trees, they would hew out the beams, and build their barn. And that was a really slow process, and it wasn't a big threat to the big sawmills. But then along came steam power, and the portability of of being able to saw lumber, because before then you had to either have a running river or you know some other source of power to cut a large amount of material, and so that made the big sawmills kind of gave them a monopoly on sawing lumber. Now along comes the steam engine and local or portable sawmills, and a farmer could just call up their neighbor that has that steam equipment. They come over and saw out the material and build their barn, and it bypasses that whole process of going to the big sawmills. And so these sawmills, they didn't like that. They wanted to corner that market. They didn't want that market to slip away. So what they did was they got together a group of them, and they formed, I think it's called American Softwood Lumber Committee, something like that, ASLC. And they created a lumber grading stamp. So they had an approved stamp that is you could only get if you were accredited by that agency. And then so they were able to write code, and in that code they could say, you have to use lumber with our stamp. And they got around some of the regulations by doing you had an association and on top of an association in order to kind of bury that a little bit deeper. So but ultimately it goes back to the lumber barons that started the whole thing. So fast forward to over the last 100 years, there was more and more of that, building codes being adopted at local municipalities, and people being told that they couldn't use their own lumber that they've harvested from their own land because it wasn't stamped and approved. And that now we've got a new resurgence of these portable sawmills, these big sawmills that like Parker is using, and like I have one myself. And so we're seeing a resurgence in people resawing their own lumber, and my plans are kind of a way to utilize that lumber in a package that'll create a good product.
So it almost seems like the big seed companies that say that you can't clean your seeds, you got to buy seeds from them. So a farmer would keep back some of his crop so he could plant it the next year, but they don't want that. They want you going to them every single year to buy their seed.
Right. Yep.
So they did sort of the same thing. They said if you want to use this herbicide, Roundup, so you have to be licensed.
Right.
So they get you in a licensing agreement. Oh, the old licensing agreement. I see how that works.
Right.
So we're kind of working around that.
Yeah.
We're majorly working around that.
Circumventing that whole process.
Okay. So we're not going to wait around for an occupancy permit or electrical permit or any kind of permits for this. Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, you're not hooking to the grid.
No.
So
they can't hold that over me.
Right. So
if we were hooking to the grid, then the power company would say, well, we have to check your permits. And so they triangulate on you there. Or if I wanted to insure the building, they would say, well, we've got to look at your permitting process before we'll give you insurance. Okay.
And really with insurance, I've found that this is kind of a misnomer where people say, well, if you don't get a permit, you can't get insurance. And we've had several buildings that are still, I mean, insurance companies permit or insure agricultural buildings all the time, and in the state of Michigan you don't need a permit by state law to build a agricultural building. So
even if you're going to live in it?
Well, it depends. If you the farmer can't live in it, but you can have your migrant workers living in the structure. So.
Okay. So if we were to let somebody else stay here, we'd have to get a little bit of work out of them. And
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
if they don't live here, they've migrated.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So that'll work. That'll work.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we were also talking this morning about having a place for somebody to stay on your homestead is kind of a nice thing.
Yeah.
Somebody comes to visit, like I would say if this was up and running and you guys wanted to stay another day, you could just crash out here for an evening. But for the homesteader to create another source of income, a cabin like this would really be
Absolutely.
helpful.
Absolutely.
There's all these platforms now. We're kind of doing the same thing that Uber did.
Right.
Like like in New York City, in order to get a medallion to drive a cab,
Yeah.
it's sort of like getting a liquor license because it's so valuable.
Right.
But then Uber comes along and just creates an app, and any guy with a car can pick people up and, basically taxi them.
Right.
So we're doing the same thing. We're kind of, we're not involving the building department.
Yep.
And so they don't get a say on what kind of lumber we use or what kind of roofing we use. It's all up to us.
Right. Right.
So our code is their code is not important to us.
Right. Right.
We will create our own code.
Yeah. And really, the free market provides a better code than the building department could anyway. Because if you build a structure that's low quality, you're not going to keep building structures because people aren't going to hire you to build it. So if you design structures that are low quality, you're not going to keep designing structures because people aren't going to want those. And so reputation is what holds the free market accountable. So that's typical. And I find a lot of times when you have a building permit type situation, what happens is the material goes to the lowest common denominator. So they'll use the cheapest thing that they can get away with to just get by the permit, just so they can get permit approved, and they don't care if it's quality or not, as long as it's cheap and it runs by the building inspector, they're good to go. Where somebody that doesn't have that net of being able to point to the building inspector or the building code and blame them, it's all on them, their reputation, then they're going to be more incentivized to build a better quality structure because they don't have anybody but themselves to blame.
Maybe even overbuild.
Yeah.
You'd stay in a structure like that?
Yeah.
I would too.
I'm putting my daughter's going to be living in one very similar to this. And my 1-year-old grandbaby too. So yeah, if I didn't believe in the structure, I certainly wouldn't do that. So yeah.
All right. Well, if you all need future information about this, in the link we'll put, or in the description we'll put a link for barngeek.com, or you can just go to barngeek.com, and you can get all of these plans there for a really reasonable price. Once you buy the plan, it's yours. And that plan is designed so that you could take it to your local sawyer, whether you live in Missouri, say for instance, and they can saw it out of the trees that you have available to you locally, and you'd be paying your sawyer for the trees. Or you could get with Parker and he could cut it out and you can trailer it down to where you want to go,
Right.
or any place you want to go.
Yeah.
So for more information, I would also check with Homestead Provisions. That's Parker and Lauren Holmes, and they saw, and they're willing to do the kit cutouts. So, any parting shots?
Well, no, I do have a couple questions for you, I think, though.
Fire away.
Yeah. So what are your plans for this structure and what structures moving forward? What do you think you're going to do?
Well, it works with what we're doing. We conduct classes here to show people how to farm.
Yeah.
So if I have a structure here, when someone's taking a class, I can put them in there, and that way they don't have to drive into town to
Right.
stay at the Holiday Inn, which a room at the Holiday Inn, I'm told, is over $200
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So we could use the building here for sure, and it would be a convenience factor. It would also be a stream of income for the farm.
Right.
And every now and then we have people that come and speak and are willing to speak to a crowd of people, our friends, about different subjects. Like we had a guy last Friday that talked about tree foraging, which was really interesting. And he stayed in a hammock up in the backyard, but I would have liked to have him down here in a nice, comfortable cabin. But I could see several of these cabins throughout the property, and it would be a really nice source of income for the farm. And you know, when you push the numbers on it, income for the farm is a resource to do more stuff.
Right.
So we want to have several sources of income on the farm, and this is a really easy one.
Yeah.
I mean, this building could be paid back very quickly in
Yeah.
under 3 months if it was rented every single day
Right.
at a fair rate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to build another one right away.
And you're not afraid of taking a little bit of business away from the Hiltons, or
No.
you
No. They don't change the bedspreads anymore, so I don't mind.
Right.
We are kind of pulling away more and more from the whole machine.
Yeah.
And when we travel, the last place I want to stay is these big hotels.
Yeah.
It's not like it used to be when I was a kid.
Right.
It's just not the same.
Well, you think about it. Would you rather wake up with traffic buzzing by your hotel room, or would you rather wake up to a low beller of a cow and the birds singing and the breeze?
Yeah.
You know, it just they can't even compete with that.
No.
So yeah, I mean, if this is a duplicatable model, so what you guys are doing here, it
Sure is.
can inspire other people to do the same thing, and
Yeah.
all across the country. If we can really provide that alternative economy.
Yes.
It's not the mainstream. That movie Sound of Freedom
Yeah.
just came out last week and just blew away the rest of the competition. And that's an alternative. It's an indie film. It's an alternative economy, and I think it's good for our country. For people to be. It just increases everyone's freedom. Liberty that
Yeah.
way. So
Makes us more resilient.
Yep.
Yeah, I could even see someday having the homestead be a center of operations. If we had a building here that wasn't being used and somebody wanted to come in and set up a barber shop, why not?
yeah,
If they
absolutely.
felt they could draw enough people in giving haircuts.
yeah.
And I would reckon that if you stayed downtown, a barbershop downtown would probably be a pretty expensive piece of property.
Right.
And it's gotten out of hand.
It has.
Just to live in town or just to run a business in town, it's cost prohibitive
Right.
to run these businesses. And it's not like it's not like people in general don't need services. They do.
Yeah.
They do need a place to stay that's comfortable.
Yep.
And
Yep.
but $300 a night at a Holiday Inn, that's a little too much.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I think that was the number that we heard today. But he said
That's-
$300. Wow.
yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
So maybe we'll put in an airstrip here, and we'll start our own little airline, and before you know it, we'll have our own hospital and
Yeah.
our own postal service.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and doing a project like this will probably run some footage of us building this, because we got a lot of footage of it building. over this part, but we, you know, it really brings the community together. We had a group of people, guys and gals, that grabbed a hold of that second beam, both the second and third bent there, and just tipped them up by hand. And you'll see from the footage, we put the first bent up with the tractor, and it actually was faster with the people to put it up. So it's amazing the power of a community working together, or a family working together to accomplish a goal. So yeah, it was a really cool event.
I would add that every time we do something like this, let's say it's a class where we do a hog butchering or cow butchering, it's not easy. Once you understand it, it's doable, but it's not easy. I don't think it's ever easy. Right. This wasn't easy to do, but everybody had fun doing it.
Yeah.
But everybody that participated in this leaves here knowing how to do things that they didn't when they showed up. And we had 5 or 6 guys helping today. They're all our people, but you know, I've never done this before. I've never built something like this.
Yeah.
So it was really good for me.
So what do you think about doing a class teaching
how
to do that?
I think that'd be a slam dunk. I like the sound of that because on the next one, by the time we do the class, this one will be up and all dolled up and painted and rented out. And you'll be staying in this one when we do the next one.
Yeah, yeah.
I could just see if there was a class going on over there at a build, and the students could wander over here to see the finished product.
Yes, yeah.
And also people that are contemplating doing this,
yep.
It gives you an idea of how much goes into it, or it depends how you look at it. It wasn't that complex. Right. Once you showed the steps, one step led to another step, led to another step.
Yeah.
And it was basic skills. Can you handle a pencil? Can you handle a tape measure, a skill saw? Yep. There wasn't any complex operations here. Yeah. Of course, if you're new at it, there would be some frustrations, I suppose, but driving screws and it wasn't that hard.
Right.
It was not that hard.
Right. Yeah, and anything complicated, even this is too complicated, but it's just a series of steps, like you said. Yeah. So if you would be interested in taking a class, comment below so that we know if there's enough interest.
Yeah.
Right?
We can pick a day.
Yeah.
Have another kit cut out and have it staged, ready to go. I think it could be I would think a 2-day class. So it'd be a stayover, let people camp, and then hit it hard the next day and have the roof. Like, we could put the roofing steel on this right now.
Sure.
We're probably gonna pack it in for the day, not working too hard today. It's kind of warm out.
Yeah.
And doing a lot of thinking. But I think we could probably build this with a class and just able-bodied humans. Absolutely. 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah. Building resiliency through education and community. Anyone can farm, right?
Anyone can farm. Anyone can build a house.
Right.
Anyone can do it.
Anyone can build a cabin.
They make it sound like you have to be an expert.
Right.
And you have to jump through a bunch of hoops, and that's part of the control grid.
Yeah.
And the control grid, in a lot of cases, is voluntary.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it.
Right.
If you say that, well, I deserve to live in a McMansion, as a you're fresh out of college and starting your first job, but I deserve to live in a McMansion, and you want to build a McMansion, well, if you're in an incorporated city, they're going to have their things that they want.
Yep.
But if you prefer to live out in the country, there are no preferred things. I mean, you just do what you want to do.
Right.
I'm sure there could be some pushback in some townships. Somebody would have something to say about this. But, it is a constitutionally protected right to build a structure on your own property if you want to live in it.
Yeah.
They can't stop you from doing it. They'll try, but
They'll try.
they can't stop you.
Right.
And I've already thought about that. I don't know if you have, but as we were doing this,
Yeah.
actually even before we started, I thought, let's say
Yeah.
that somebody pulls up here,
Right.
what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And I've already gone through it in my mind. I would never get in any kind of conversation
Right.
with anybody that comes and starts asking me questions.
Yeah.
I would tell them that they have to get off my property,
Yeah.
and that if they have a question, send it to this email,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And I'll get back to you
Right.
when I get around to it,
Yeah.
but I probably won't get around to it.
Yeah.
And but I'm not going to get in any kind of argument or give up any information. There is nobody, unless it's a friend, that comes here and says, "Gee, what are you going to do with that structure?"
Yeah.
You know, it's my business what I'm going to do with the
Right.
structure. I might put my lawnmower in there, but I might rent it out to,
Yeah.
you know, Princess Diana. It's
Right.
up to me
Right.
as it's my property. So long as I'm not doing anything illegal, like I wouldn't say, well, that's a perfect spot for human sacrifice. That's illegal. I
Right.
can't do that.
Right.
But if a friend wants to stay there and they want to compensate me for it,
Yeah.
that's between me and them. And there's nothing wrong with getting paid
Absolutely.
to let somebody camp on your ground. Now, we've seen occasions where townships or counties say, "Oh no, you got to get a permit for that."
Right.
And what that is they want a cut of the action,
Yeah.
and you have to tell them, "Take your best shot.
Right.
I'm not going to give you a cut of the action.
Yeah.
You don't have that authority over me, so run along." But you do everything via email, and you never deal with any of the underlings at any of these organizations.
Yeah.
You only deal with the top guy because you're the top guy,
Right.
right? And you're not required to deal with any of them. It's a private enterprise, and it's none of their business.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
none of their business. You know, if we want to go question for question, and they ask me a question,
Right.
I may say that, well, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And, you know, I may ask them a question that's equally as outrageous as what they're asking me.
Yeah.
And like, well, when you answer my question, I might answer your question, but I might not.
Yeah.
It's my business.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we don't have to ask permission to do what is legal on our private property. The authority of the township or the county or the state or the federal, it ends where private property begins.
Right.
Unless we step out from underneath the umbrella of safety, which we step out from underneath that if we do something that is illegal against the law.
Right.
But I mean law. I don't mean any regulation or
Yeah.
rule or anything like that.
Right.
I don't really follow rules if they violate my constitutional rights.
Yeah.
And I think as the homeowner, you have to be, or the farm owner or the homestead owner, you have to be willing to say, no,
Right.
run
Yeah.
along.
Yeah.
And take your best shot. You're never going to get them to agree with you on your
Right.
constitutional right.
Yeah.
They will never agree,
Yep.
because that is the goose
As,
that lays their golden eggs.
as much as you retreat, they'll move forward. And if you don't retreat, then they won't move forward.
That's right. We've seen that many times. And there's other avenues too. If you feel strongly about your constitutional rights, as I do, when somebody that works for one of these organizations who has taken an oath to protect and defend my constitutional rights knowingly and willfully violates their oath of office,
Yeah.
they've just stepped over a threshold where me as the citizen, I'm almost duty bound to bring them to account. And that is a civil lawsuit
Right.
where you're suing them personally.
Yep.
And you can do that because they've stepped out from underneath their oath,
Yeah.
which is their term of employment.
Yeah.
So it's doable. We've worked that pretty successfully in the past.
And I know people are there's there's definitely bound to be people that are watching this that think, well, no, I've got to follow the rules. You know, I don't want to get fined. I don't want to, you know, have XYZ bad thing happen to me. But it really takes somebody standing and saying, this is as far as I'm willing to go,
Yeah.
and no farther. And if you're willing to do that, that is a noble effort, because that helps protect everybody else's freedoms. You know, with one guy standing can protect not only his freedoms, but his neighbors around him, because he'll be an example for the rest of them.
And what do you got to lose, really?
Right.
You know, if somebody says, well, you can't do that, and you say, I'm doing it anyway.
Right.
What are they going to do? Oh, well, they might fine me. When did we give, you know, any of these entities that we created, the
Yeah.
township board or any of these entities that we created, when did we give them the authority to fine us?
Right. Right.
You know, they may create a document
Yeah.
and say, we're fining you this much money because you did this. But what happens if you say, well, I'm not going to pay this either?
Right.
What are they going to do then?
Right.
Are they going to throw you in debtor's prison or put you against the wall and shoot you?
I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
I mean, these entities don't have the budgets to really push their agenda,
No.
and they never know who they're dealing with, too. Like, you can take them on. They don't have qualified immunity. They try to say that they do,
Right.
but that ends when they step out from underneath the umbrella of safety that they enjoy when they respect the citizens' constitutional rights. Once they step out from that, like this is under the Fifth Amendment, what we're doing here is protected under the Fifth Amendment. My life, my liberty, and my property is protected under the due process of law. You may have some weenie from the township says, well, I don't think that's right. But they don't make law.
Right.
And so if they could access or reference a law, that would be one thing. But it's a constitutionally protected function,
Yeah.
so long as there is not a law against it.
Right.
Like
Yep.
human sacrifice wouldn't fly.
Right.
It would not fly.
Right.
Or drug manufacturing wouldn't fly.
Right.
Things that are truly against the law. Possession of certain things, you know, certain explosives, certain drugs, certain weapons that are prohibited by law. In reality, if there is a law, we have all consented because we're a republic, a representative republic.
Yep.
And the people that we've elected have voted to make a law to prohibit certain things.
Yeah.
So if I elect them and they make a law, well, and I don't agree with it, then, you know, I have a fight on my hands.
Right.
But I do have to follow the law.
Yeah.
I do have to follow. If you don't follow the law, and I mean a law like there's a law that prohibits armed robbery.
Right.
If you don't follow that, you'll know, because when they catch up to you, they will arrest you.
Right.
But if it's something like building a cabin on your land and somebody says, well, I got a rule against that,
Yeah.
you will know that it's not a law because you will not be arrested. You'll
Right.
just receive threats and letters and stuff, and you just got to hit the press to test button, say your move. What are you going to do next?
Right.
I'm not moving. I'm not budging. And they usually forget all about it.
Yeah. They do.
Yeah.
They. It's not worth the trouble.
It isn't.
Yeah.
And our freedom is it's either the most important thing we have or it's one of them. Because can you imagine if you were not safe in your home, like in Mexico or
Yeah.
Bolivia, the federales can kick your door down in the middle of the night just because they want to,
Right.
and you have no recourse,
Right.
and you can't raise a hand to them, or they will kill you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're unarmed, and you are not protected by any kind of constitution.
Right.
What we're doing right now is protected under the First Amendment, freedom of speech. I know those people aren't going to like it.
Right.
Tough. They'll get over it.
it's our right.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
There's stuff people say all the time that I kind of wish there was a law against it, like some of the pedophile stuff.
Yeah.
I wish, well, I guess there is a law against that, but I wish they couldn't say those things.
Right.
But they have the freedom of speech as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
We have the right to
Yep.
speak out against it.
Yep. Yeah, and it's worth the risk of being a little uncomfortable, having an uncomfortable conversation with a local tyrant.
Yeah.
To protect those freedoms, and if that's all it takes to protect our freedoms, just a little bit of standing up,
Yeah.
then that's easy. That's you're not standing toe to toe with redcoats at that
No.
situation. You're
No
just,
bayonets.
right.
No.
Right. That's low risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
So-
you are toe to toe with some zoning coordinator from the township, what are they going to do
Right. Right.
if you tell them no?
Yeah.
Or you don't have to speak to them. You just tell them, put it in an email. It comes to your email box and you just delete. And just delete. You're not required to speak to anybody. You were in elementary school. You had to go to the principal's office, but you're not now that you're an adult, just because somebody works for a township or a county. You have to speak to me. No, I don't. Watch. My mouth is closed, and it's going to stay closed. Nothing you can do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole system, the whole alternative system means you pull away from it. And I suppose if I'm really part of the machine, then they can prohibit me from going in their stores or banking or cancel me.
Right.
But if we have a parallel system, there's resilience there. If this company doesn't want to do business with me, I'll go to somebody else
Right.
or make my own. All right, well, I think we've about covered everything, and somebody's tapping their watch, so
Yeah.
anything else?
Nope. I thank you for the opportunity to show up here and build this cabin and talk to people about what we do, and looking forward to where everything goes in the future. I'm looking forward to more people building stuff like this and stepping out of that system. So.
Agree. I appreciate your expertise and your willingness to come and help us with this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome.
Sayonara. This is Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres, and I'm joined by Aaron Esch.
Sorry about that. It's like we were going to watch it again. All right, I'm going to read through. I think that was a pretty decent format. I think we will do that again. Yeah, let's do a little conversation here. Ben Carlson's with us. Bob Denob. Bob Denob. That's got to be a handle type name. I'm from Upper Canada. Likely won't happen, but if I ever did, I'd jump right in, man. Eh? Okay, eh? A lot of people from Canada are pretty good turds. Sounds like a good turd. All right, Ben Carlson's with us. Okay, we've got Abundant Living has put in the link for homestead provisions. And there's two ways you can approach this if you want to build one of these structures on your farm. You can get with Parker and tell him what you want to do. Or probably a better way to go would be to get with Aaron and tell him what you want to do. He could probably send you you could probably look through his material that he already has, barngeek.com, and pick something out. But he does do custom designs. I heard him say that. And his plans are very reasonable, and they come with a cut list. And if you pull the trigger on it, the cut list will go to Parker. Parker will cut it out. And then you can work with Parker on what that's going to cost you. And I got to tell you guys, it's extremely reasonable. It really is. That building right there, plans and all, is going to come in for, I don't know, man, maybe we got the special price, but it's going to be like $3,500, maybe $4,000. And that's with windows, doors, roof, everything. And we did the assembly. But so if you had to hire somebody to put it up, it'd probably be $8,000, right? But still, I mean, that's really cheap. I mean, people buy cars for that. You could live in it. Okay, Keith S., late but never, but still. Late, but I am here. Now work is done early. Okay. Oh, yeah. Give us a thumbs up, you guys. Help us with the algorithms. And Abundant is asking who'd be up for a class. So Aaron's pretty geeked on that, and I would like to do that too. I mean, where we possibly it would go like this. He would ask you to watch a couple of things on his YouTube that are really quite good as far as this post and beam building. And then you could attend the class, say on a Saturday morning, and we just go to it, start building, and he shows you how to do some of these different joints and how to attach these things. A lot of it was new to me, but now I have it. Now it's not going anywhere. And then, then you could get the plans, get the materials, and build it yourself. So I would think that putting together a nice little structure like this on your place for about $4,000 would be nice, would be really nice. I don't know what to say, but when we buy these types of buildings, like these Amish made barns, they're like $25,000, and they just build them out of 2x4s and T111 plywood. They're really chintzy, but people go crazy for them. Well, the Amish made it. It must be good if it's Amish made, right? So who would be up for a class if we were going to do another class? I tell you what, we get 10 people sign up for a class. We'll have to charge for it for sure. You get 10 people sign up for a class, and I will do it. I will do it this year. Okay. Wallace Wimmer, or is it Weimer? Typically, structural framing is all that must be grade stamped for inspection. Rough sawn siding, reverse board, and batten is a nice cabin look. Love the channel and the education. I'm not sure what you're saying. Typically, structural framing is all that must be grade stamped for inspection. Why would we go through inspection? See, that's what we're saying. We don't want to get caught in that trap, right? Like, we're not going to insure this building. What for? Burns down, we'll build another one. We're not going to burn it down. But the insurance is really a scam when you think about it. You pay in for your whole life, and then you need them, and they're like, well, who put that plug in? Who did that? That wasn't by a licensed guy. I don't think we're going to pay. It's a scam. Or like in my case, we had insurance with State Farm Insurance, and just recently they canceled me. When we questioned them why, the kid actually, it came out of his damn mouth, because you teach farming. I said, why don't you put that in writing? Would you put that in writing, please? Because I would like to have a paper trail on this. You get some agent, right, from the insurance company They can't be held accountable for anything that they say, right? But you're canceled. And then you try to go to somebody else to get insurance. How come they canceled you? Well, because we do farm classes. Oh, we don't like farm classes. That's stepping out of the matrix. You got to stay in the matrix. Inga, what is the clearance from loft floor to peak of your cabin? It's, I don't know. I don't know. Can you stand up in the loft? Yes, you can. And I'm 6'4". And Bob is saying, you're right, insurance is a ripoff. Yeah, it is. All the insurance that I've paid in my life, if I had it all, if I ever get in a car accident, I could buy somebody a new car and I could buy myself a car. Right? And same thing with our homeowners insurance. Like it's such a scam, but they brainwash us into thinking, oh my God, I have to have insurance. I have to have insurance. And, you know, if I have insurance, then if the house burns down, then they'll rebuild it, right? Sure they will. Sure they will. Yeah. It's just like I had homeowner insurance, you know, we've always had it, right? Because first house that I had, you know, you don't own it because you go through the bank and the bank says, you got to have insurance. See, they would have me right now if the bank was part owners on this farm, like let's say the bank, and they probably don't know, but if the bank was holding the note on this place and all of a sudden my insurance was canceled, the bank would say, well, you better stop doing farm classes so you can have insurance. Because if that place burns down, we want the insurance company to rebuild it because it's partly ours because we're holding the note on it. And it's an illusion because banks don't have money. You know, they're just authorized to make believe they have money and hit the ones and the zeros on the, you know, it's not real. It's not real. And it's sort of like having health insurance. You have health insurance and you think, whew, I'll be healthy. And if I'm not, they'll fix me. You better just live with the fact that you will be healthy if you take care of yourself. You won't burn your house down if you are careful, right? Don't play with matches. I don't know. The further I get away from the Matrix, the more stupid it seemed to be in the Matrix. It was just lie after lie after lie. And all the spells that they used, the spells and incantations that they used, I believed them for a long time. I mean, it wasn't until I was like literally about, in my mid 50s before I started figuring out, well, that ain't true what they're saying there. I would question myself, you know, and then I would go to people who were older than me, like, you know, parent figures. And I would say, what about this? And they would twist the conversation around to fit the narrative. And I'd say, yeah, but that still doesn't make sense. You know, it still doesn't make sense until I started to look at it and identify it for what it was and then call a spade, right? Instead of saying, well, I know it's shaped this way, but that's not a spade. It's a club because they say it's a club. No, you got to call a spade. And once you start doing that, this didn't happen. This didn't happen. This is wrong. This is fake. You know, then all the spells and incantations they stand right out. Like when you hear, well, there ain't no money in farming. Like that is so stupid. That's like, well, there ain't no money in mining. Well, there ain't no money in the insurance business. You never hear about that. There ain't no money in insurance. There is, because in insurance, they're selling an insurance against what they make you afraid of. They make you, and, you know, and the only reason why they'll bet on it is because it probably ain't going to happen. That's why they bet on it. Bob says, as long as My red pine stay standing. I can build a new one. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anyway, but pulling away from the matrix is a good thing. It really is a good thing. And I think Aaron had some real words of wisdom there. If you bend the knee, you're going to always bend the knee, right? And here we are. I know we shouldn't think this way, but we're doing a really cool cabin build. We're doing it so people can see it. It was for Tribe Day, but in the back of your mind, you have this feeling like some schmuck's going to pull in here and says, "Have you got a permit for that?" You can just kind of feel. Or we have campsites next door, and somebody's going to say, "Oh, you need to ask permission from us." And you think that through, because that's just, we've come to expect that in American lifestyle, because the more and more we move away from freedom, the more we expect tyranny. We expect it, and I think when we inspect it, we get it. Like if someone pulls in, like most people wouldn't even do what we did, because they're expecting that they have to jump through somebody else's hoops. But when you really think it through, the whole notion of the Bill of Rights, the U.S. Constitution, the Fifth Amendment is really clear. My life, my liberty, and my property is protected under the due process of law, and I need to be okay with that. And I am, for the most part. For the most part, laws are okay. By the time something makes it to the governor's office and signed into law, for the most part, they're okay. Now, you might say, oh, well, what about raw milk laws? Okay, state of Michigan, there is an MCL, and it's quite clearly states that selling raw milk to the end user is illegal, right? There is a law against it. However, it does not put raw milk in the category of a controlled substance. So now all of a sudden, there's a law against an action of selling something before you heat it up to a certain temperature. So somebody has a bottle of milk on the front seat of their car and they get pulled over by a state trooper. Is he going to say, is that raw milk? And did somebody sell that to you? No, probably not. I mean, I don't know of any instances where that has happened, or you get pulled over and you chuck it out the window. And that's because it is a law that is written and it is nebulous. It's like somebody put the gun to the governor's head to sign this. Why? Because the milk lobby is running down the road with tankers full of raw milk. That'd be a fat bust, wouldn't it, for that state trooper? Or would they be pulling over the guy with the gallon on the front seat of his car? Because make no mistake about it, that milk is going someplace. That becomes the end user, right? They buy it, and then they probably process it, and then they resell it, right? So all that means is, it has to change hands. So it could be like, okay, well, we circumvent that very easily by saying we are not selling raw milk. We are selling a share of the cow. You pay for a share of the cow, and you get whatever the cow puts out, whether it's milk, hair, manure, free petting, cow cuddling, all that stuff. You get that. That comes with your share. So that's what we're selling. And it's a workaround, but it's very effective. And if they wanted to truly outlaw the sale of raw milk, that would be tough, because then you would have to say that raw milk is a controlled substance. So for the most part, laws are pretty good. And that's really not where tyranny exists. It's when they triangulate on you, right? So it's like, well, I want to build a house. Well, I don't have the money. Well, that's a problem. Well, you go to that guy and he'll loan you the money. That guy says, yeah, I'll loan you the money so long as you go to that guy over there and buy insurance on the house that you're going to build that I'm financing. He'll promise to pay me if you're stupid and burn it down. And the guy that is going to sell you the insurance says, well, I'll sell you the insurance so long as you go to that government office over there and get permission, a permit, right? And you go to them and they say, well, I will give you permission to do it. Right now, all of a sudden, they get to give you permission to do something that's legal on your property. See, they've triangulated on you, right? And they'll say, we'll give you permission, but you got to go see this this guy over here to do an electrical permit. Well, I don't want electrical in my building. Oh, you got to. You got to. I don't want it. Well, you have to, because we say so. See, so you got to figure a way to pull away from that. And in this case, I think what a person could do is get a piece of land. You can buy raw land, but you got to save your money. So that means you got to go to. No one said this is going to be easy, and not one thing we've done has come because someone waved the magic wand. There's always had to have been perseverance and hard work. That always has to happen. Like the way we are operating right now. When we have money come in for something that we have done, produced, sold, a service that we provided, something like that, we instantly turn it around and invest it back into the property. Why? Why do we do that? Because we are building a business. We are building a business. When we started here, there was no business. You couldn't even live in this house when we moved here. It took time and it took effort and sweat. All day today, we were working on our new milk parlor. Why? Because when you milk cows, you get this really nice white stuff and you can sell it. Why do you want to do that? Because we need money to put a new roof on the cabin, right? Why do you need to do that? So we can rent it out, so we'll have dollars to buy, new cows when these ones get wore out, or new equipment for the butcher shop, or, a new tractor, or maybe we'll need a new car at some point, but you have to continue to do this. And we pour the money into the operation instead of letting it sit in the bank, because when you let money sit in the bank, it doesn't do you any good. You want to invest it in something that's going to produce more. So we're here 19 years last May, and we've made a lot of steps, and I can tell you the only time we ever borrowed money was just recently, and we borrowed some money on an auto loan, and I had a weak moment, and I just thought I wanted a nice car for my wife to be driving around. I wanted a safe car, and the one we were driving around in wasn't so good, but that's okay. It's just a piece of equipment. And so we borrowed some money and got a newer car, still 10 years old, but it was a little bit bigger and more powerful and safer. And so we did that, and the payments pretty darn reasonable, like $125 a month. You'd think that we could have just coughed it up, but we have to do what we have to do. So if you think about it, when you look into the matrix, and when you get involved in the matrix, it is really hard to pull away from the matrix. It is a process of pulling away. And when you get out of the matrix, you look back and you say, how did I ever do that? And usually it's because you're lured in. You're lured in with shiny things and lies and innuendo that the good life, then you'll have the good life. It's like, it just kills me how I got sucked in on a lot of these things. Like I remember Budweiser commercials, it's like beautiful girls on the beach and we're all drinking Budweisers out of long necks and stuff. But when you really see people at the beach drinking Budweiser, you don't even want to be with them. You know, it's really not like they make it seem on TV. I don't know. Do they even have Budweiser commercials on TV? I don't remember. I think Budweiser's gone out of business, haven't they? Bud Light, anyway. I don't know. Don't have TV. All right. So I thought that was a great conversation. More and more, I'm hearing conversations like that. Really appreciate everybody that came by. Tonight's show, by the way, was brought to you by the Anyone Can Farm Tribe Plus. Let's see. Do I have a sticker here? I do not. Tribe Plus, for those of you who do not know, is a modality that we are able to bring you more information for a meager donation of about 14 cents per day. 14 cents per day, no kidding. It goes into a fund that we can pay, the bills associated with making, classes, fencing classes, charcuterie classes, hog butchering classes, and we film all this. Joe edits the whole thing and puts it up behind this paywall. And in order to keep doing this, we have to get more people signed up in a Tribe Plus, or we just won't add to it anymore. You can't afford to add to it. So we need, if you're going to invest in something, please invest in Tribe Plus, because you're actually investing in yourself. And all you grandparents out there that can cough up that good Social Security money, it would be a really good investment to sign your grandchildren up for Tribe Plus, because they're the ones who will be feeding you from their homesteads. So I think that would be a really good idea. Or you can just kind of pay the whole thing forward and pay into the fund and make it available for people who can't, cough up 14 cents a day. Well, if you can't, you probably shouldn't, you probably shouldn't. But anyway, I'd like to have about 1,000 people doing that. So then we could afford to really put a lot of information behind there. I'm sure it will come. It's grown not as quickly as I would like to, but it is growing, and I'm sure it will take off at some point. Well, that's going to be it for tonight, Thursday night. We've got chicken butchering tomorrow, so we're going to be very busy. And it looks like we're going to be working on the cabin Saturday morning. Okay? We'll try and get some pictures up and things like that. Anyway, I'm going to get going. Have fun, you guys. Remember, anyone can farm. Good night.